All right, hello and welcome back to the Worldwide Wolves podcast YouTube channel. We're both, we're on Apple, Spotify now, so we're also a podcast and a YouTube channel, but welcome. I'm already rambling. It's what I do here, but we're coming to you with the Worldwide Wolves Timberwolves channel because, why is it called that? Because we're all around the world. I'm coming to you from Pittsburgh. I just moved here. And my co-host Jake over here, where are you coming to us from?
I'm coming to you from Melbourne, Australia. Bright and early. I am hungover, so yeah, that's where we're at right now. But I'm excited to be here. We were both sick last week at different times, so worldwide, but still managing to have our immune systems ravaged at different times of the year. But yeah, I'm happy to be back.
Last week was interesting. Yeah, it was about the same time as we're recording right now that I texted Jake. It was just like, dude, I really want to, but oh my god! And I was so happy when you said you were sick too. It was such a huge relief. I
Yeah,
didn't have to feel bad.
I woke up like, I'll peel myself out of bed here and I'll go do this podcast. And then you messaged me and I was like, oh yeah, I'm rolling back over and going back to sleep.
I was sitting in this chair and just dizzy. But anyways, we're back. 2 weeks ago we did do it was a fun video that I didn't actually end up tweeting out at all, so I'm just gonna say now, go check out last week's video. We did the all 2010 to 25 team, and that was so much fun.
It was.
Yeah, a couple disagreements in there. Go check those out, and then give us your disagreements in the comments as well. Otherwise, any house cleaning before we get started here? I don't think so.
No, I don't think so. Like you mentioned, we're on Spotify and Apple, so go tune into that if you are an audio listener. But we do, I think, prefer people to watch on YouTube. We're both YouTubers, so yeah, we're kind of spreading our wings a little bit.
Yes. Yeah, all right. What we're gonna do today is just kind of go over some Timberwolves news. They brought in a couple players on, back of the roster contract. So we'll just touch on that. And then we're going to go over some comments, specifically Julius Randle focused, some questions, comments from you guys. So should be fun. Looking forward to getting into that. But yeah, it was kind of, the big story for a while was the Wolves still have a roster spot or two open, and they filled it. They got Enrique Freeman on one contract. And yeah, I mean, starting with that one, Enrique Freeman signs with the Minnesota Timberwolves. I guess I'll throw it to you to start. Any hot takes on this guy? Any big news you got?
No, I don't think so. Obviously, it's a two-way deal, so we know how they work. Kind of they split their time between the G League and maybe the end of the bench for the big team. Like I said to you, I watched a little bit of his college tape. He went to Akron. He was a fun player. He's 6'8", I think. Athletic, got the makings of a three ball in there. I know he was shooting threes at Summer League. Just had a really good Summer League as well. So kind of a modernish power forward, which I don't know how many big guys this team really needs, but they are valuable players in today's NBA. I don't expect to see either of the guys that they've just signed to play any minutes, but I think it's always smart business to get players who fit in this modern NBA kind of style and provides some sort of punch if a crisis does happen and we need to see Enrique Freeman playing real minutes. He was the player that shot the free throws against the Wolves last season when they picked the player from the bench against Indiana. Yep. And he made both of them. So he's got that dog in him.
Yes, for what it's worth, 6'7", 220 pounds. I definitely knew that before going in and didn't just pull it up. But yeah, he was the guy who played for the Pacers last season and shot those free throws. I like that. That's a good trivia fact for Enrique Freeman going forward. But yeah, he's going to be on the end of the bench. He's the one that replaced Jesse Edwards. Is that right?
He replaced Jesse Edwards.
That's the big news on this podcast.
Yeah, so it does feel better now to say how much I dislike Jesse Edwards as a basketball player because he doesn't play for my team at all anymore. So that in itself is good business.
Yes, very nice. Jesse Edwards, as Jake coined, the worst basketball player he has ever watched. So good stuff. Glad he's got no, not personal. All right, he's probably a great guy, but
yes,
whatever. Other news, they brought in Johnny Juzang on a non-guarantee. It's just like a camp invite. Yeah.
I think a training camp deal. They do. The interesting thing is they do need to sign a player. They have two open roster spots.
So this isn't. It's a weird.
Well, I think I guess he'll be in the camp with the other two-way guys. I'm guessing there'll be another one or two training camp deals that they sign in the next few weeks. and I guess all of those guys will kind of just be fighting it out for a spot at the
Gotcha.
end of the
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
bench. Juzang did play. He's played
He's on
84
his
games.
fourth season. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, he's played 84 games in the last 2 seasons, 64 last season, and 20 minutes a game for the Jazz, who obviously were a tanking team. But this is a guy who has NBA experience. He kind of makes sense a little bit. You know what I mean? Like he can shoot the ball. He's 6'7" and he can shoot the ball. He doesn't do anything else really. He's not a good rebounder. He's not a ball handler. He's not a good defender. But he did shoot 38% last season on 5 attempts a game. Shot 41% the season before on 4 attempts per game. So this is a guy who does again make sense in the modern NBA. There's a lot of players out there who are 6'7" and can shoot the ball who end up making NBA teams and playing NBA minutes. So I don't really see the downside in this, but there's not really much upside either.
Right. Yeah. We got to talk about it because they brought these guys in, but 24 years old and played 20 minutes on the Jazz, which sweet. I mean, I could have done that, but anyways, yeah, should we get to the comments or we got any other takes on these couple of signings here?
No, I'm happy to get to the comments.
Sweet. All right, we'll start it off. We were gonna do some from just our own stuff. Maybe we'll save a little bit for the end, but it was a lot of just rehashing the conversations that we had last week if we were to go about that. So if you want to hear about that, just go listen to last week's episode. Anyways, starting off with some comments here, just on Julius Randle for the most part. All right, this one's from Noah Welch. I'm actually quite familiar with Noah from my live YouTube days. He was always in my comment sections. Appreciate you. He
Shout
says,
out to Noah.
yeah, we love Noah. He
Thank
says,
you for watching House and Grouse. I appreciate you.
yeah, and he's probably watching this. Noah, leave a comment. If you're not, we'll know because he won't comment. So, all right. He says, stylistically, I think OKC loves to go up against bully ball type of guys like Randle. They're so excellent at ball pressure and pokeaways. However, Randle's bully ball playstyle was crucial in the first 2 rounds. He was so good against LA and Golden State. I'm very torn on him. So not really a question, but a question that we can kind of formulate off of this is just, Randle's style did work extremely well in the first 2 rounds, and then in OKC was exposed. I think we saw it quite a lot in just Randle's bully ball style when he'd go into the post, try backing someone down, they'd pull the chair, just take it away quite a few times, and it's just because we're also very torn on Randle. So I guess my question here to start it off and throw it to you is, when they eventually do face OKC in the playoffs again, because they'll probably have to get through them, to make it to the finals. Julius Randle, do you think he adjusts his play style dramatically, or do you think it's more of just getting more comfortable with this Wolves roster and then the Wolves can kind of adjust around him? Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does make sense. I'm just so torn on using the OKC series as a measuring stick for everything and obviously it needs to be taken into heavy consideration. They are the powerhouse right now in the Western Conference. The odds are that you are going to have to go through them to win a championship. They were also just a really, really great team that did this to everybody. And some players handled it better, other players didn't handle it better. Randle, we know, didn't handle it very well. But they turned everybody over. I don't like using it as a measuring stick for just every part of the game, whether it is Anthony Edwards being a point guard like we were talking about last episode, Randle being whatever player he's going to be, Dillingham is viability in terms of minutes, whatever issue you have or kind of question you have with this Wolves team, saying, well, they can't do it against OKC is a bit reductive because there is 82 games that you need to win enough games to become, you want to be a top 4 seed in the West. There's other playoff rounds that are really good teams that you need to beat, so you're not a first round exit. And there's even the potential that OKC aren't one of those teams if something happens to them. So I do think you need to look at this in terms of what he is, I guess, as a player overall, and then separately what he can do against OKC and weigh those up. So I think I'm struggling with that a little bit. Like, I don't know. First, what do you think about kind of that point? Like, how much do you think using OKC is like, can this guy play against OKC? How much should that factor in to these conversations?
I mean, at the end of the answer is like it should be a lot, but then the other side of the coin is how many players in the league do you look at and go, this guy's really good against OKC? Like
Mhm.
there's very, very few. And then Julius Randle is a player that has the talent to, be a second guy on a team to get you to a 6 seed or a 4 seed, hopefully going forward here. So
Mhm.
I've been torn on Julius Randle, but at the end of the day, he finished the season extremely strongly, looked very comfortable with this Minnesota team. And yeah, it might get rough when you do play OKC, but again, it was rough for every single player on the roster essentially. So, a lot of pressure was on his shoulders to kind of be the guy. And I don't know, I think maybe if the Wolves see offensive steps from guys like Jaden, Anthony Edwards, even, and Nas Reed, it just takes a little bit off the shoulders of Julius Randle, and maybe he can settle more into his own play style and try to
Mhm.
maybe probe more into that OKC defense at more opportune times rather than I think he had to just do it, a lot, and it just
Yeah.
didn't work. But
Yeah.
they had no other answers, like
Yeah, exactly, it's obviously magnified on a big stage. Like, you can't dismiss the fact that you build a roster, you build a season out in the hope that you get to this point. So 2 years in a row, not just with Randall. I think it was important with Cat against Dallas. I think it's important when Ant has these flaws in the Western Conference Finals that you need to build something that can hold up in those situations. So it is important, but like Halliburton, who obviously had the calf strain and then the Achilles, unfortunately, in the finals. Like, he averaged 6 assists and 3 turnovers per game in that series and 14 points. So it's kind of like they did it to everybody, and I feel like
yeah.
Halliburton is the best low turnover, high usage guy in the entire league, but pretty much by a long way. So I just think that the turnovers that this they make you look silly. Okay, so they made everyone look silly last season, and because they have so much ball pressure, they foul a ton and don't get called for it. That's just a thing. But they're also just a great defense. So it is hard for me to. And I was sour on Randall, and as you know, I'm still not sold on Randall as a building block in a like franchise kind of foundation. But I think using the OKC series scares me a little bit because I don't know if any player that played good against them consistently all season. So I'm trying to separate that from the Randall that we saw at the end of the season. I don't think it's completely fair to just wipe away the Randall that we saw at the start of the season as well,
Hmm.
who didn't fit on the team, and there are still things that he doesn't fit with on this team. So I think my problem with Randall is I don't know if bully ball how far bully ball gets you, and maybe it's 2 rounds, maybe it's less than that if they.
But that's not all his game is, like
Exactly,
yeah,
and that I think was the point of the video of the comments we are
right.
looking at is I think he leaned a little bit away from bully ball at least until the playoffs. Like, they had great matchups in the playoffs, so I understand the bully ball, and against Draymond he was awesome as well, which isn't even technically a great matchup. But the Lakers, perfect idea. Let him bully smaller defenders, draw helpers, make passes, store in the post. I think it was good, and then same thing against Golden State. So, but I think in the second half of the season he did start to conform a little bit to the way that Finch wants to play. He drove the ball way more efficiently. I think he passed it. I'm going off the top of my head here because I don't have all my numbers from that video in front of me, but I think his pass percentage on drives was about 12% higher in that after he came back from injury. I dropped again in the playoffs, like I said, but I think if they had have had matchups where he didn't have to play bully ball, it would have stayed pretty high. His efficiency on drives skyrocketed in both the second half of the season and the playoffs. So I do think that he conformed a little bit to the way they wanted to play, which I think was shoot more catch and shoot threes. He at the start of the season he shot a lot of those. Like, he'd do one jab step or he'd hold it for a second, then he'd shoot the three. Second half of the season, he was shooting catch and shoot threes without hesitation. They went in more, and then he was driving, attacking closeouts, and making passes and scoring. So I do think they found the blueprint for how they want Julius Randle to play. Now, is that always going to work? Is it going to work against OKC? I'm not sure. I'm not sure if OKC are playing really well. Anything the Wolves have can like beat them in an overall sense. But I do think they found the way they want Randle to play, and I guess the logic there is that it should be better from the start of next season if he holds to that.
Yeah, he's such an interesting case because whether it was the beginning of the season or the injury when he came back playoffs, it was all either like really low or really
Mm-hmm.
high. We didn't get a ton of just middle ground Julius Randle. So if he can, I mean, ideally he takes off and continues to play at that really high level. But the Wolves were also like 21-4 during that stretch, and he was elite. So like consistently, if he can find somewhere in the middle, I'm curious to see what that looks like over a full season because we'll see. I mean, I'm not super confident he becomes that super great player as he's getting older, but we'll see. We'll see. Intrigued by what we're gonna get from Randle this season. The Wolves clearly have confidence in him. But just to go back to the comments here, this one's from James Gorham, and it's just kind of anti a lot of what we just said. He said, Jake, I hope you're right about your video about him being able to change his game in his early 30s. In my opinion, the Wolves will never win a title with him on the team. He's a career 33% three-point shooter and a ball stopper, not to mention the turnovers. OKC showed the blueprint to stopping him. He quit on the team in that series. Hope they trade him in the winter or earlier. That guy does not like Julius Randle. But I think this kind of goes into our OKC point again, where it's hard to build a team around just, solely
Mm-hmm.
that series. And, you could, if maybe you could look at it and say OKC did figure him out, but there's no other team as good as OKC at,
They figured everyone out. That's
yeah,
why they
yeah,
won a
yeah.
championship pretty
So
easily.
they figured Julius Randle out, but if they send that blueprint over to the Raptors, are the Raptors also going to execute the same thing? Or the Pit,
Mhm.
like OKC is maybe the one or couple teams that is completely capable of just executing that blueprint. So I get it, but what's the alternative right now? So
Mhm.
that's
And
where I'm
that's
at.
and yeah, I completely agree with kind of your line of thinking there because and I agree with the line of thinking that OKC showed the blueprint to stopping him and he twit on the team in that series. I think he twit on the team that last game. I think he couldn't be bothered with how badly it was going, which is a poor trait to have. And we've seen it before with other players, and it's always going to get criticized. But I'm not really going to hold him to that to start next season, I guess. But I am going to file that away as something that I keep in mind. But I think there's a lot of the problem with Randall is I think a lot of this comment is true. Like he is a career 33% 3-point shooter. He is more ball stoppy than you would like, and I think maybe a little bit less ball stoppy than his reputation is, or at least last season towards the back end of the season. I thought he was very unball stoppy in the second half of the season, and like you said, it's to change your game in your mid-30s is a thing that we don't see very often. But I don't think he changed. I don't know how to explain this. I guess I don't think he changed his game necessarily. I just think they got because he did all the things he did. I just think they got him to do the things that he does 20% of the time, 30% of the time instead. And the things that he does, the other things that we don't like that he does 20% of the time, they got him to do that 10% of the time. Like, I don't think he's never going to stop doing the bad things that he does. He will be a turnover player. He will get a bit ball stoppy at times, but he always was a good driver off the catch. He was always a good passer of attacking closeouts and in the post. I just think they accentuated the things he does well a bit more often, which is a coaching thing, which is a credit to Chris Finch. So that I think that was good coaching, having a good relationship with the player enough to get him to buy into that. So I don't think he changed his game necessarily. I just think that they kind of shone a light on the better things. But again, I don't disagree necessarily with this comment because there is always he's not a perfect player, and you have to build around Rand. The thing that bothered me with the signings is I think Randall needs he needs a built-in section of your game plan and of your roster construction and of your system. And is he always going to be good enough to warrant that? I don't think so. But maybe if the system and the game plan and all these things that he's being built into are good enough, it can lessen the amount of times that he doesn't fit, kind of.
Yeah. And just going back to, the fit, a lot of it he mentioned throughout the season that he kind of observed while he was on the bench. And I think we just, while he was injured, and a lot of credit goes to him for that. Not we, but just in general, we kind of forget about like that he came from an entirely different system where he was kind of, the superstar in a way there with Brunson, but he was a huge name, and just coming over here with Anthony Edwards and just, guys who are much more familiar here and sliding in a completely different, I don't know, just system. It's interesting. It's very, very difficult for a player like of his caliber. So yeah, the injury sidelined him and just allowed the Wolves, I think, to settle in as a team and then figure out how to integrate Randall. Because he came here on media day, man. like there
And
really wasn't
injured as
time.
well. He didn't
Yeah, yeah,
play.
yeah.
Maybe he played the last preseason game. Um, and I don't know. This is a kind of weird subject because I'm half the world away. But watching all of those games, from the start of the season and then when he came back, I thought he looked in way better shape in the second half of the season. I think he looked like when I'm watching them back to back, like I'd watch a game, the fourth game of the season, and then I'd watch the 70th game of the season an hour later. I thought he looked noticeably slimmer and noticeably quicker. And it just, whether that
That's
was
the
just,
buy-in. Like I just think that's
yeah,
a huge part of the buy-in where maybe he
and
got here and
I
just
think it's
yeah.
part of the injury as well. Like he probably just wasn't in as good a shape as he would like to be. They probably wanted him in maybe a different kind of body type for what
Hmm.
they wanted him for. And I think he looked faster and slimmer and maybe not as, beefy and able to bang in the post quite as much. But I think he's always going to be pretty good at that. But I think he looked fitter. And again, I don't know if that's true because I don't know Randall. I'm not seeing him in person, but I think it looked noticeable through the screen. So um, I think the expectation would be that he comes into camp in that same fitness at that same fitness level next season, and with a bit of preconceived knowledge behind him on what they need him to do. So most people, I think, listening to this will know that we're not completely bullish on Randall, but I don't want to write him off either. I'm kind of in wait and see mode. I'm in hopeful wait and see mode with him, and I don't think they were probably going to get better than him, unless they were able to try. I think they would have had conversations around the league about trading Julius Randle, and if they came to the decision that keeping him is better than getting whatever they could have got, then I guess that's we just have to take that at face value, kind of.
Yeah, that's a large part of my off-season analysis here, just because we really got to see it in action. But a large
Mm-hmm.
part of it is I trust Tim Connolly so far, and
Mm-hmm.
Chris Finch has had more faith in Julius Randle than anyone else on the roster that he seems to have ever talked about. Like he really, really likes working with Randle. So a full off-season here, they brought him back on a pretty solid contract. So I don't know. Right now, I'm trusting the Wolves front office and the Wolves coaching staff to see what happens here. And hey, maybe they can actually adjust pretty well to the OKC series. Again, OKC's a juggernaut, so we'll see. But yeah, I mean, I guess that's the Julius Randle portion of today's episode. You got any other big thoughts on Randle?
Not really. I do think that it's a weird place for us as well when we talk about these things. And I think we've both said that we don't really expect the Wolves to be championship contenders. Like I think they're
Yeah.
like a fringe, everything goes right, and they could be contenders type of team. So I think if you're viewing them as this team needs to be, and I think we're both okay with that. Not in a way where we're like, we don't care if they win the championship. Like obviously that's what we want to see, but like we don't think that it's. I think speaking for myself, and I don't know if you feel the same, but I'm not going to get myself worked up about them not winning the championship if I don't really think they can win the championship. I think they're a good team. I enjoy watching them. I think everything could break right and they could have this miracle run. And they have Anthony Edwards, who could all of a sudden just ascend into the fourth best player, third best player in the league next season. And then it would make more sense. But I think it's easier to hand wave some of Randall's misgivings when you're not thinking, well, they need to win the championship next season.
Yes, I agree. It's weird, right? Because obviously they're back-to-back Western Conference Finals teams, and the next step
Exactly.
naturally, and
Exactly.
we've gone over this, and the next step is championship. But it is still kind of I don't know if I've changed my tune on this because I think the first time we've talked about this, Randall and Reed were still kind of in limbo. Same with
Hmm.
maybe even Gobert. And like now that they've
Yeah.
fully established the roster, it is kind of like this team seems to believe that they've
Well,
got
yeah,
it, bringing everyone
and
back. So we
I guess
mentioned like we didn't even know if the coaching staff believed it, but they brought back everyone. So part of me believes they are fully committed to winning the championship.
yeah, and I guess you should use what I'm saying or my belief as an indictment kind of on that front office because I don't think the team that they think can clearly win the championship can. So I guess, and I'm
Okay.
not saying that, I guess, in a
Yeah.
way to criticize them, but I'm like, if that's what they're thinking, I guess I'm saying I don't believe
I
them.
I think if it's a carbon copy repeat of like last year's team, no, but like it is a carbon copy, but I think there's a lot of guys that can take steps forward, and that's
Yeah.
probably what they're going into this thinking.
Well,
Obviously,
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
and
They're
we'll see
betting
if
on
that
Anthony
happens.
Edwards. Like they're
Exactly.
betting,
Yeah.
and they're betting on McDaniels and Nas, and that Randall's a bit better next season. And
But how
I
many
think
of
it's
these actually can come to
yeah,
fruition, you know?
yeah, and it's dangerous to just believe you have a divine right to be in the Western Conference Finals and take the next step again next season. Like that worried me last season, and they went and got there
Right.
again. But like making it 2 seasons doesn't guarantee that you even make the playoffs next season. Like I think obviously the Wolves will make the playoffs, but it doesn't really matter once the season starts whether
Yeah.
you how many Western Conference Finals in a row that you've made. So I'm that sounds like a negative thing, but I'm kind of just like I think they're there or thereabouts, but I wouldn't be betting them to win the championship. So I think I'm okay with like hoping that you figured out a way to get a little bit better of a Julius Randle next season. I just looked it up. His on ball percentage, which is a stat that a website Data Baller does, which is a great website. It's like usage rate, but it's literally just how many times you touch the ball.
Okay.
So it's not how many times I think usage is like shots, shot attempts, turnovers, assists. This is literally like if 100% of the time the ball is in play, how much percent do you touch the ball? Randall's is at 18.9%, which is some players around him would be Shaden Sharp, 19%, Anthony Davis, 18.9, like Amen Thompson, Nikhil Alexander Walker was more than him. Uh,
Really?
yeah, Chris Dunn, Kyle Anderson.
What is like what's the higher end of this, I
So the
guess?
higher end is the highest is 48.7%, which is Jalen Brunson. So that's 30% more than Randall. Ant is about 30th on this list. At
He's got to be
31
the
point.
highest wolf, but
Yeah,
is
he's the
Julius
highest.
what's Julius like fourth, fifth, third?
Yeah, so I'm not looking at full Wolves list, but I got
Sorry, yeah, just threw all this at
Conley.
you, but
Conley's at 27.7. He'd be second, and obviously dribbling the ball up the court
right. But
will
Randall does
take
that
up.
sometimes, so like I
Yeah,
don't know. That's
yeah.
interesting.
So he's fourth at 18.9. Dante 17.8 is just a little bit under him. So the ball stoppy thing, I guess, because I kind of believe that as well. But now I'm looking at this, I'm thinking, like it's 30% less than these point guards, which obviously he's not a point guard. It's still it's pretty low. Even Ant's next to Kevin Porter Jr., Fred Van Vliet, Jalen Green. So he's not even in that upper tier of, Shea's at 40%, Maxi's at 40%, Halliburton's at 40%, LaMelo Ball 42, James Harden 42. So this isn't a team that is very ball stoppy, maybe, or maybe they just don't. I don't know how to explain those numbers, but I just thought that was interesting that Randall is so low.
I honestly would have guessed quite a bit higher. So I mean, hey,
Hmm.
interesting. Okay. Where do you put the Wolves right now? I guess just we're looking at it and saying we don't know if they're finals contenders, but just in the West, not even NBA period. Are they fourth? I think they're fourth right now for me, for sure, behind the
Yeah,
Thunder, probably the
yeah,
Rockets. I think I gotta put them ahead of the Nuggets, I think, until the Nuggets show they can actually start beating the Wolves again. But they're
yeah.
in the
Well,
group with like the Nuggets, Mavs,
mhm.
Wolves. It's a very
It
but
depends,
yeah,
I guess, if you're talking like I would be pretty confident in the Wolves beating the Nuggets in a playoff series, and I think the
sure.
Nuggets did a
Okay.
lot better. But I need to see them beat the Wolves. Like
Yeah.
I need to see Jokic be able to defend while Anthony Edwards is on the court. Because again, I've been watching Anthony Edwards videos, games, or all the Wolves games, but every Nuggets game, I don't know how they're fan. I know that Jokic is the best player in the world. I don't think I've seen a worse defender than Jokic versus the Wolves in the NBA. Like he stands around and does nothing and does whatever he wants when Jokic is on the court. Like they lost that series because Jokic couldn't defend. And I am a Jokic fan, but I think it's weird that got brushed under the carpet that he
Well, he scored
played.
60 in one of the games. It helps when you
Yeah,
score 60.
and he's obviously like offensively maybe the best player I've ever seen with my
Yeah.
eyes. Like but like until they prove that Jokic can like not be the worst defender I have ever seen on the court when Ant is playing, like playing drop coverage 14 feet behind the screen and letting Ant walk into threes, or playing up in coverage and just letting Ant walk around him all game. And Ant, you can see like Ant's walks into those games like, I'm just going to score 40 tonight
Yeah.
because Jokic can't stop me. So, but if you're talking regular
Well, let's
season,
phrase it like this: how many teams again, in the West, 7-game series, are you taking? Not the Wolves.
so definitely those three. I think I'd take the Rockets because I just think their defense is awesome
Yeah,
and they're getting better. And now they've got
helps to get
KD,
Kevin Durant.
who will at least give them some scoring. OKC. Who's the other team? Nuggets, I guess, were the other team that are up there. I think I think
Mavericks. Everyone likes the
yeah.
Mavericks. I
I
don't
mean,
know, man. I gotta see it.
a healthy Clippers team I would take against
True.
over the Wolves, and that's a big if with them because they're so old. But they were awesome last season in the regular season. A healthy Kawhi in a playoff series terrifies me. The Mavs, I don't think I would.
I gotta see it. Everyone's talking up the Mavs, and I get
Yeah.
it, but I gotta see it first.
And there's other teams that I'm not. There's so many good teams in the West. I bet there's a team that I'm just not thinking of right now that it would
I
at
don't know.
least be.
The Wolves are there, man. They're top
Yeah,
four
the
for
Wolves are
sure.
that. Yes, yeah. That's. I'm sure there's other teams that would be worth a
Okay, sure.
conversation, but yeah, it's probably four, which means you're a fringe contender in my mind.
Yeah, and then you get to the East, and it's really without
Yeah,
with no Tatum. I don't know. I mean,
yeah,
I'd take the Wolves against the Knicks.
yeah. I probably would take the Wolves against any Eastern Conference team.
Yeah,
Like I
Cavs.
think with a little bit of bias in there as well, but I don't think that it would be silly to say that they could beat any of those teams. The
No,
other teams, I guess, that I'm thinking about here were the Lakers. Probably, I mean, we just saw that. No, the Warriors, no. But I don't know how Jimmy. Maybe Jimmy and Steph clicked with a full season
again,
together.
I gotta see it.
Yeah, exactly. Like, and there's other fun teams in the West that the problem is the regular season. I think I think the Wolves are built to win playoff games. I think they play with a slow pace.
Yeah,
They have multiple tough shot makers. They play defense. Like they're a playoff team. What worries me is more regular season. Like they were the 6th seed last season. Just.
true. Yeah, it seemed like they were going to be playing like all year.
Yeah.
Really
So
good.
it's kind of like I'm like, could the Lakers finish above the Wolves? Yeah, I think they could. Like the Clippers, I think probably will. The Warriors, I think I like the Wolves being the 7th seed I wouldn't bet on it, but it wouldn't stun me at all because there are a lot of good teams in the West, and the regular season is just a grind. Like the Wolves need to prove
Yeah.
again that they can win 50 plus games.
The over-under is 50.5. I think I would pretty confidently take the under.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I just think that, and I think maybe because there's like last season, there's going to be a ton of teams that are like bunched up between 45
Right.
and 50.
I
You
think
can
they're
still be,
like a 50-win team on paper, but I don't believe they can
yeah.
actually win 50.
And I think if you have to choose between the two, I would rather
Yeah.
be a team who's good in the playoffs and not as good in the regular season. But there is a balance there that you need to be. There's a bar you need to clear. Well,
Yeah.
it's the 7th seed. You need to be able to miss out on the play-in because it's been proven that how important it is to have that extra week break and to not have to play elimination games right off the bat. So that worries me more than the playoffs, to be honest. Like that I'm worried that they're not going to win enough regular season games. They're trying new things. They've got rookie or second year players playing heavier minutes. Gobert and Conley, the grind that they have to go throughout the season at their age.
Yeah.
Randle's inconsistencies in over a bigger sample of games and not games where you need to play really well. So that worries me a little bit, but that's I think also intriguing me to see how they approach it, what they do. I don't think they're not good enough to be a team that just kind of
Coasts through.
Coast is the word I'm looking for. Exactly. They need to win 50. I think you need to win 50 games to guarantee not being in the play-in, which is just utterly insane.
Yeah, I mean, it's a
Like,
team with the talent that should be they should be hosting a playoff series based on the talent,
yeah,
and
and I think
yeah,
they would be disappointed if they don't.
agreed. I mean, we just said they're a top 4 team in the West, so
Mhm.
at the end of the day, I mean, one thing that can really push you there is having the MVP on your team. Maybe that's Anthony Edwards. We're gonna talk about that in the next episode that we're gonna be recording shortly. So I don't know when it's gonna be posted, but check that one out. Should be fun. You got any other major thoughts for this one before we get out of here?
No, that was fun. Like everything, I think we kind of it's therapeutic to talk through our
Yeah,
thoughts
we
that
seem
we
to
have.
like find in the back half, we really find what we want to say more. We
Yeah.
like really get into it. Yeah.
Well, we started this podcast because we felt like we had Wolves takes in our brains that we never got out. They were just like building up in there, and you know, at some point it was going to start causing problems in our personal life when you've got too many Wolves. It's like we're going to have a mental breakdown, you know. So
Exactly.
I think we got there in the end today.
Good. I agree. All right, folks. Hit the like button, the subscribe button, the bell, the every other. If you see a button, just click it. All right. Thanks for watching. Leave a comment as well. Give us a question or two. See you guys.
Tell us your thoughts on Randle.
Yeah. And yeah. Do you agree with us? Do you disagree? Because comments on the last one were really fun to read, even though a lot of them really didn't like what we said. But
I didn't. I stopped reading them real quick.
thanks, everybody. See you in the next video.